Hello, in today's tutorial we are going to make some puzzles. If you ever been interested in making a wood puzzle similar to this turtle jigsaw puzzle using a CNC wood router such as a CNC Shark, this is the tutorial for you. My students have been making such puzzles like beef cuts or the Kansas state of Kansas puzzle with different commodities that represent the state. This tutorial is used to help other ag teachers and my students design their own puzzles using this same method. Today is one that I'm going to make that we probably will not reproduce to sell, but is going to be a power cap puzzle. When you open up vCarve on your desktop, the first thing that's going to pop up is a job setup. And this screen automatically pops up. This is the piece of wood that you are going to select to use. You can see a few different things. It uses a coordinate plane, so it's going to be asking for the X, the Y, and the Z axis. The Z is the height, and the Y is the height, and the X is the width. I'm going to be working with a 8 by 8 piece of wood that is 3/4 of an inch thick as my base piece. I'm also going to set my origin to be the center. This allows, if you measure the X and Y axis, that origin or 0, 0 would be the center. If I want it to be otherwise, I'll put it over here. This is very important because this is how the Shark or any other CNC wood router you have communicates to where to make the cuts and where your vectors are located in relation to where you set your 0, 0, 0 mark on that machine. And also, I like to put it in the center because it allows you to center up the project a little easier. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK. If you're doing any type of image in here, you can just copy and paste the image. So I've already copied it, and I'm going to paste in the Power Cat. Now this is the Power Cat, designed for the Kansas State Wildcats that I'm going to make a puzzle out of. You see it has a few different places I could make some puzzle pieces. Now, to do this, I have to take this JPEG image and make it from a bitmap into actual vectors. So I'm going to click on this little birdie, and that's going to allow me to trace the bitmap. There's a few different ways you could do this. You could trace color. So if you have a multicolored element, you can select the colors that you want to trace in, and you can see where this red dots are popping up. That's the vectors it's selecting. I'm just going to do black and white, hit preview, and you can see these are the outlines that it's picking up. So I'll apply that image and close it. At this point in time, I added another layer to my drawing. And click on layer, I can see that I have a bitmap layer and layer 1. I'm going to turn off the bitmap layer, and I'm going to change this to Power Cat. So right now, I'm only looking at that image. Now, there's one image on here that I don't want, and that is the trademark. If I was to drag from this direction, it would select anything as I select from right to left. It selects anything that box touched. If I select from left to right, it's only going to select what is completely enclosed within that box. Hit the delete button, and it's gone. As you can see, this image may not be perfectly centered, but to check to see if it is, I'm going to drag, hold everything in, and come over to move selected image. As I can see right now, it's 0, 0 in relation to the origin. If I wanted to move it up, I can center it on X, 0, Y, 1, and that would center it right here. However, I want to return this so it'd be completely centered in this device or in this layout. So if this was the puzzle that I wanted to make, next go over to the Toolpath tab, and I would start making some selections. First off, come over to this Inlay Toolpath. You have several options. To make a puzzle, the Inlay Toolpath is the one you're going to want to create. First off, I'm going to select a pocket toolpath. This pocket is going to allow me to make cuts into the wood, into where my pieces would actually lay right in. I'm going to want to make a cut depth. Now, if you noticed, my material that I worked with was 3/4 of an inch long, deep. So I do not want to make a 1-inch depth cut. But for this puzzle, I'm going to be making a 0.2 cut using an end mill. For this, I'll be using a 1/4-inch end mill. Now, it's really important later when we make the puzzle pieces that we use the same tool, because otherwise our pieces won't fit exactly. But using the 1/4-inch end mill. On here I can edit the number of passes, and that's okay. The big thing that I want to know is the pocket allowance. The pocket allowance allows you to make these pieces a little bit bigger. Now, since this is the base of my puzzle, I'm going to make it 0.03 inches for my pocket allowance, meaning if I cut these pieces on the Power Cat exactly to that size by 0.03 inches, when those puzzle pieces I cut out exactly that size will then fit in there just a little bit loose. You don't want a snug fit. If you were to have it to be the same, they're not going to fit in there exactly. So 0.03 to 0.05 is perfect for a puzzle. And I'm going to save these as inlay, if I can spell that right, and then calculate the toolpath. Now, as you see, it says no vector selected, mainly because I didn't select them all. So as I come over and it's not allowing me to select the vectors because I have this page open at this point. If I go over and select them all, now I can do my pocket. So come back, do the 0.2, do the 1/4-inch end mill, and as I said earlier, 0.03 pocket allowance, and we're going to name that Power Cat Inlay. Select. Now, I can preview this by a few different ways. This is going to already bring me to preview toolpaths, but if you're right here on the toolpath page, you can click right here on this picture and preview all toolpaths. And it will show you exactly how the CNC wood router is going to cut this out. Now, if you want to see exactly where your cuts are, sometimes it's better to go back to your actual view and hit solid, and you need to select the toolpath. Solid, I'm going to make sure the bitmap layer is off, and that will allow me to see exactly where it is actually going to be making the cuts. You can see here in relation to the teeth, since this 1/4-inch end mill is not going to be winding up completely on that way. So you can see this is the path that tool is going to take. It's actually going to round that edge on both sides. Now, if I was to use an 1/8-inch end mill, this might be a little bit different. So we're actually going to go back and we're going to edit that by going back to inlay, or by clicking on here, and I'm going to select a tool. Now, this is not on my list, but I am going to create a new tool. It is an end mill that is 1/4 of an inch. And all these other, you would want to check all this information. I know that for me, this is the correct information for mine, so I'm going to hit OK. Now I had a 1/4-inch end mill. If I recalculate that information, come back over, I'm going to reset image, preview the toolpaths, and you can see that the teeth get sharper, the eye gets a little bit sharper, but this is a better overall image. The difference between those toolpath, or those two bits, is that this will allow you to make more accurate cuts in those little bitty nooks and crannies. So I'm going to go ahead and save this onto my documents as PowerCat inlay. And I'm also going to save my tool path. The tool path is actually the where all of this is going to be cut out. So by saving the tool path to a file, I'll be labeling it PowerCat inlay 8x 8y, so I remember the size that is of my baseboard that's coming out at, and then 125, I can type end mill. This allows me to know the device I'm making, the piece I'm making out of, and then the end mill that I'm using. Next thing I would also make is the 75x. This allows me to know everything I need to know when I'm looking for pieces, so I'll save that. Now to make my puzzle pieces that I'm going to be cutting out of, I'm going to actually have to save as, and I'm going to be making PowerCat puzzles. The PowerCat puzzles, now that I'm working with, are, just make a few modifications. I would actually delete this inlay, select it again and go straight. This time I'm making it out of a different stock. It's still 8x8, but I'm going to be making this out of 1/4 inch stock, because these are my pieces that are going to be laying in, and I made a 0.2 cut earlier, so that should have just a little bit of lip sticking up. But I'm going to cut all the way through the piece of wood. Now because of that, I will put a sacrificial material below that. I'm going to be using this same tool, and I do not need to make a pocket allowance for this. Select my areas, calculate, and I have my images. Now, the true struggle that you're going to see with this is when you go here to solid, you're going to see that it's going to be having my areas coming together here a little bit, because this tool is coming in through here twice. Now that might work out all fine and dandy, but for my peace of mind, I'm going to select on some of these pieces separately, and I have room to work. And so I'm just going to move them in different places and space them out. Now you can see my tool path is still where it was, so I'm going to have to recalculate. Hit calculate again, and it's going to spread everything out perfectly exactly where I want it. So now I can save this image. I'm at the close, and I'm going to save the tool path itself. And I'm going to save this as now you see earlier I called that inlay, and those are actually supposed to be pockets, so I'm going to edit that. So PowerCat inlay 8x 8y 25 x with a 125 end mill, and then use sac for use sacrificial layer. Okay, so those are the pieces. I can save this, and I am good to go. On this next video, I'll show you how to import this into NextWave Automation. Thank you.